You are watching me take a mandolin that I glued the back on last week out of the prop bar deck, and here it is. It's still got some overhang right there, needs to be trimmed off, but basically we have an entirely glued together rough body of mandolin. And this week we're going to discuss all of the steps that it takes to get that far, to take a roughed in back and to prepare the mandolin. This is one of the mandolins that last week, if you'll remember, we glued the neck in, and we're going to prepare this thing, and we're going to prepare this thing and get them ready to mate together and glue them together. And that's what we're going to do this week, is discuss all of the steps that it takes to get that job done. And we're going to do 9 more mandolins hopefully this week. Okay, just randomly I grabbed mandolin number 7. I have this bowled out thing that actually fits the curvature of the top, so the mandolin will just lay on this board more or less flat. And I have a board with several cuts in it, curves, that has some bend in it, as you can see, and we'll put that right there. And then we're going to go right down through I have a board with 2 screws in it, right down through the sound holes right there. Screw that in, and that is going to hold this entire mandolin safe and stable while we clean up the gluing surface. Now, this is a low angle block plane, and I use that to level what's sticking up here. On the neck heel will be sticking through just a little bit, so I'll use this block plane to level all that up. This may take a little bit. Now that's pretty close, and I have, believe it or not, this piece of Kumaru flooring that is just as stable as a piece of steel, and I take some 80 grit paper, wrap around it, and we're just going to use this to level up, glue squeeze out, and any kerfing that's sticking up above the sides. And basically just try to level everything up. We'll give that a quick check, but I think that's pretty much level, clean, and ready for the back to be glued on. So now we have to get the back ready. Now the very first thing I do is mark the center line here, and where the neck goes in, I'll mark the exact center of that opening. Draw a line through that. And I take a piece of wood that's roughly shaped like the outline of the heel, or the neck actually, put it right on that center line, go up here to the sharp point of the neck up here, which is on the center line, this tip right here. And draw a line all the way down the center line of that mandolin from here all the way up to here. And the main purpose of that is really wasted on this mandolin because this mandolin has a single piece back. But I usually do that to make sure that we stay, that the seam in the joint of the two pieces of a two-piece back stay exactly on center line with the entire instrument. But here it really is sort of a wasted effort, but I just did it so that you could see the process. And I would take, say, a two-piece back here and line everything up just exact here. So, like I said, so that center line will fall right down through there. But first we have to take it out of the jig. Once I have it out of the jig, I'll have the center line here drawn, and here, back here, and we'll visually line up the two center lines here and back here. So once I got all of the center lines lined up to suit me, I will pencil around this thing exactly. Because I'm going to pre-take off as much of that overhang as I can. Now, I have, usually when I sand fretboards and that sort of thing, I will keep ebony dust. You can see it right there. I will take a pinch of ebony dust and just drop it right down that crack. Very carefully now. Just lift that off. And look at there. I have exactly where that hole is going to be. Now what I usually do is just go through here and just kind of mark it ever so often. So that I have a dotted line, so to speak. Now I could probably saw that out without too much trouble, but I do like to just go back in there and kind of reinforce the roundness. Sometimes, depending on what the issue is, all I really want to do is just clean this off down to just outside this pencil line. And sometimes I'll put it on the saw. Some of these big places right here, I'll go ahead and do on the belt sander, just like this. What I'm really trying to do is just get everything sort of pre-smoothed off and all like that, so that when I do glue it on, it'll be upside down. It'll be hard to see the center lines and all like that. So I want to cut this close enough that if it slips a pencil width or something in the gluing jig, it's not really going to matter very much. and I don't have to pay that close attention to the center lines and stuff while I'm gluing it. And I've got another sander that I'll use, and then a saw in some places. And then the back will fit into this thing, which is basically just a piece of 1/4 inch plywood with a 3/4 inch plywood rim put on there that this thing will fit right down into. And then that, where this back is carved on the back and it's not very stable. Once it lays into this little fixture, then it's very stable and level with the table. So now we can take it back to that very same saw that we just come off of and saw this out. I turned the saw off because if you try to back the saw out of this cut while the saw is running, it almost always pulls the blade off of the wheels. So now we're going to go for the second cut. Now we can't get it all because this fixture and the back itself will keep me from spinning all the way around and getting this very last little bit of a corner. But that's okay because now I can take it out. Use this same handy dandy circle guide. Draw the circle on this side, and it's just enough to clear back here, and I can finish out the circle on the outside, so to speak. Such a tiny little bit of wood that needs to come out anyway. Now that I have the profile of the back ready to glue on, there's a couple of areas left that need to be touched. One of them is rough carving the scroll down. I won't bother trying to get a finished shape, but I want to get it a lot closer anyway. So we're going to rough carve the scroll down. As it is right now, it's just flat all the way across. And then there's usually a little, as this top slopes down here, and this slopes up and then flattens out where the head block goes, there's usually a little bit of a thick area right here on the inside that I like to take down as well. So we're going to have to carve a little bit on the outside and some on the inside. And to do that, I have this jig right here, which fits right here in this vise. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there are some dowel pins sticking up in strategic locations so that this top will fit right in between these dowel pins and not move too very much. And then all I have to do is just take some spring clamps, go here, here, and this top is really stable and I can carve on it. And this thing's got some holes drilled so that my tools can fit down in there. And so we're going to carve this scroll right now. I now have this entire area from this high point here to the low point here, a nice smooth steady slope coming around from the scroll into the body. And so now what I'm going to do is pencil how far down I can carve here and pencil the crest line in the scroll, and then I'll start with the gouges to carve out that shape. All right, there's a rough idea of what we want right there. Okay, here's the real rough shape anyway, and I'll go through various scrapers and some sandpaper to smooth that down and get it about 80 gridded off, pretty close to where I want it to be. And then we'll work on that spot on the inside. Well, I'm relatively happy with the outside shape. It's nice and smooth and pretty close to the final shape. Got it smoothed down to 80 grit paper. So now let's address that area that we talked about earlier on the inside. In fact, let me just draw you a diagram so there won't be any mistake. Let's take a cross section of this back. This will be the part that glues onto the head block, and then we have the interior curve, and then we have the exterior curve. It's coming through here. That comes all the way out here to the heel button. So this thickness right here gets thicker basically right in this area right here than I really want it to be, because when I carved the inside I just made a smooth slope up and then a smooth slope out here, and so this thickness gets a little thick, or this measurement gets a little thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the drill press up with a depth stop that can only, the stop will be here and the drill bit will come down to a certain thickness. We'll make that thickness this right here, and then we'll just come out through here, drilling a hole on the inside, and we'll probably get a little deeper here and a little deeper here and a little deeper here. And we'll stop so that we can smooth everything out. So the the difference between the two will be just this. This is what we have here, and what we want to wind up with will be this. A much steeper thing like that right there. You see, rather than this being smooth out, now we're going to have a steeper curve right in here. So after that is done, then we'll be ready to glue the back on. I almost forgot a step that we have to go through before we can do the drilling, and we want to define exactly where this line is going to be on the inside of this mandolin back. So in almost a very similar thing to the ebony dust that you saw just a minute ago, I just have regular dust right here. We're going to put everything together, line it up down through the center lines and the holes around the scroll, and then I'm just going to shake that dust down in there. Very gently pull this back off, and we actually have that head block pretty accurately defined right here. Again, just like before, we're just going to make a dotted line. Let's connect the dots so that you can see a little better. And there you can see that we have a defining line that tells us where we cannot carve past. And as you can see, this drill press is set to basically that thickness right there in the center of that top, which is, by the way, pretty close to 7/32. And we're just going to go hunting for a thick part. Now let me get some good light and show you. So as you can see, that was a little bit thicker right there in that area. And now we can go just kind of scoop it out from this line into the bottoms of those holes and then smooth everything out. And this mandolin back will be more or less ready to glue on. So here we are back to this jig. Now, this is a curved top, won't sit flat. So I have this piece of wood right here that fits down over these pins. Gives me just enough room for this mandolin back to rest on that ledge. And be held firm and stable. Put that light on there and you can see the shadows in those holes, and we know exactly where we want to carve, sand, or scrape out, however we elect to get that out. But we're going to try carving it here. Now this will go through basically the same process as everything else. We're going to rough it down, and we're going to scrape it smooth, even, and all like that, and then we will tackle it with successively finer grits of sandpaper until I can just run my hands through there and everything will be nice and smooth and pretty. And that's about as far as I care to go with the chisel. we'll go to the scrapers now. Now we'll start 60 grit paper backed with a rubber pad. And after I run through the grits all the way down to about 220, this thing will be ready to glue on, and the mandolin itself is ready to have the back glued on. So I'm going to glue one on. Now, because this is not level, it will not sit evenly, we're going to use the same trick that we used just a few minutes ago with a ring of plywood. Just sit right on the rim, and now everything lays level. We're going to prop up the neck with this piece right here and slip this piece under here. Prop up the scroll with some wedges so that it's all supported. Now, if this was a master model, I would take a wax pencil and go right around the edge of the gluing surface with wax, so that like a colored wax pencil, black or a dark blue or something, so that when we're cutting for the binding channel on the back, we cut down till we hit color, and then we know that we've hit this surface right here. But this is mandolin number 7. It's going to be a country boy, which will not get binding on the back, so we're good to spread glue. And we'll put it all together. Now we'll take some wedges and go right down in here to make sure that those holes are lined up after the glue is spread, of course. And then we'll use the prop sticks to finish up the glue job. So I'm going to spread glue, and we'll see all that happen. Now this is the second mandolin in the batch to have its back glued on, and it takes about a half a day to get each one ready, the back and the leveling up of the kerfing and everything on the sides themselves. So I have 8 more mandolins to do and 4 more days to do them in. So it's going to be a very full week, but we're going to try to get all of the backs on this week. If the phone don't ring too much and not too many distractions, should be able to pull it off. Here we go. Number 7 has its back glued on. I'm going to put it in a box to await the trimming process. And here is mandolin number 1, ready to go into a box to await its trimming of the overhang. And this is one of the extras. Mandolin 2 and mandolin 4 were ordered with pickups, and here's a close-up of both of these with K&K internal twin pickups installed before we put the backs on. This one's number 2, and this one is number 4. If you'll recall, it's the F-style body with the A-style peg head. Number 4. And now the back has been glued on number 5. And number 2. yesterday was a really good day gluing on backs. I actually glued the backs on 3 separate mandolins, number 4 and number 3 and number 6. Hey, there it is, the last back on the last mandolin, which turned out to be number 8. And so I am done for the week. I've accomplished my goal, which was to do that. It's Friday afternoon. And so I'm going to spend the rest of the day cleaning up all of the little messes and putting everything back where it's supposed to be. Next week, we will tackle the jobs of cleaning off the excess back that's hanging over on these mandolins, cleaning up this little area right here that will, once this line is defined, we'll need to swoop that out and make that all pretty and clean and everything, and then clean up. Basically, my machine, my trimming machine doesn't touch from here all the way around this heel button and inside the scroll. So we'll need to do that next week, and that will pretty much, I bet, take up all week on 10 mandolins. But if there's any time left over, we'll start worrying about the fretboard and the fretboard extenders. So that's next week's job jar list, and hope you guys will come back next week to see us do those jobs. And that will be on the next episode of the Ratliff Mandolins Weekly Production Diary. Like I said, hope to see you then. Bye.